What's going on, guys? Welcome to part 1 of my real estate investment series, and today we're going to be focusing on long-term rentals. If you don't already know, my name's Alex Dunbar and I'm a realtor based out of the Langley area with RE/MAX Treeland Realty and the Dunbar Real Estate Group. And today's video is part of a short 4-part series looking at the most common ways to invest in real estate. So if you're interested in learning more about investing in real estate and everything else real estate related in the Lower Mainland, I suggest you subscribe to my channel. But that's enough about that. Let's get into today's video. Today I'm going to be teaching you everything about long-term rentals. Now, long-term rentals are defined as any time that you're renting out a property for longer than a month. Typically, this will be a year lease or monthly lease. This is probably the most commonly thought of type of real estate investing. You're going to find a tenant, put them in the property, and they're going to be paying your mortgage month over month. Now, what you do need to keep in mind though is if you're in the Lower Mainland or another area such as the Greater Toronto area, it is very difficult to cash flow and actually have positive returns when you first purchase a property. The reason being is that the home prices are actually significantly higher than what the rents will pay for in terms of covering the mortgage. So in some of these areas, if you're close to neutral or at neutral, this can actually be a very good investment, but we'll run the numbers later and show you why. Ideally, your goal with these sorts of properties is to have the mortgage covered and actually take home a bit of cash, which we call cash flowing month after month. Now, you're actually going to be making an ROI in 3 different ways here. You're going to be having the principal of the mortgage paid down. You're ideally going to be cash flowing every single month, taking home a positive cash return on top of all of your expenses month after month. And number 3, one of the most important in most of these markets, is that you're going to be gaining appreciation. This is an increase in the home's value due to changes in the market, and over time, as you can see, it almost always goes up. Now, the real estate market is cyclical. It does move up and down, but over the long run, it has always trended upwards. In markets such as the Lower Mainland, this is where you're going to see your greatest ROI. However, having that positive cash flow is actually going to be what makes the safest investment. Long-term rentals are my personal favorite strategy as they're typically the lowest risk. However, this doesn't mean that they don't come with it. The key here is that they are a long-term strategy. You're not just trying to make a quick buck. This is typically where the majority of people who have become wealthy through real estate have done it. In future videos, I'll run you through some examples and actually show you some numbers of what this would look like. So one of the most common mistakes I see people make is that they oversimplify what their expenses and their income is. So the income portion is pretty straightforward. It's whatever the renter's paying you. However, it's the expenses where I see people making mistakes. Most people only take into consideration what that mortgage payment is. However, there's many other expenses that you need to take into account, such as property taxes, insurance, potentially strata fees if it's a strata property, income taxes from the rental income, money needed for repairs and renovations, and accounting for vacancy rates. Unless you're taking into account all these different expenses, you're not actually getting a good picture of how your property is going to perform. In terms of vacancy rates, I like to use the number 5%. This is going to account for those times where you're switching renters, you may not have someone in the property, or you've had to boot someone out. It's a good idea to try to determine what the vacancy rates are in the area that you're renting your property, and this can help you determine where the best place to invest is. Something else you need to keep in mind is that you can't just consistently increase rents. It's actually restricted by the government to a certain percentage every single year. Throughout the entire COVID period, they actually put a freeze on any rent increases. But in general, it's usually somewhere between 1.5 and 3% per year. So how do you find out what a good property to purchase is? Well, you're gonna wanna run the numbers. My suggestion is to get a spreadsheet. I can provide you with one. You can make your own, whatever you wanna do. Once you've ran the numbers, that's going to give you an idea of whether or not you should purchase property. Now, keep in mind, everything we're doing are all estimates. There's going to be inherent risk in everything you do, but at least if you're doing your due diligence, it's going to set you up for the most success. As I previously mentioned, you may not be making positive cash flow right from the start, but you need to look at your projections into the future to see when that will be happening and what that's going to look like. You'd probably actually be surprised at what sort of ROI you're getting on a property that's just paying for itself. Now, ideally what you want to do is purchase that first long-term rental property and then eventually have that 1 turn to 2, those 2 turn to 4, etc., etc. It does get more complicated the more properties you have, but we will touch on that in future videos. Anyways, hope you learned something new today. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.